This podcast is sponsored by the creative agency Clear and Loud. Whatever your business's product, service, or idea, we believe clarity changes everything. We help you clarify your strategy, your brand messaging, and your online content so that you reach the right audience and grow your business. If you're frustrated by an ineffective website, if your message is jumbled and confusing, and you're not getting the traction you want with your marketing, let's talk. Schedule a free 30-minute consultation by visiting clearandloud.com. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with episode 2 of the highly anticipated Daddy Boss Love podcast. The fans have been clamoring for episode 2, and here we are.
Howdy.
Scheduling was really easy for us.
Yeah.
I don't know whose fault that was.
Let's throw TJ under the bus right now and just say he canceled a few times, and we don't know if they were legitimate, truly his child got injured, or if there was a last-minute date and he didn't want to admit that to us.
I plead the fifth.
Okay, we'll never know.
But I didn't ghost you. I think in relevance to the topic of ghosting, I communicated last minute at least.
That's great.
You communicated when we asked you, are you coming?
Right, 5 minutes before.
I think. Before we dive in, we did a little bit of a conversation last time around the name of the podcast.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
What was the feedback you received there?
Well, we were overwhelmed with the amount of voting on this, but I think we got like 10 people voting.
It's a strong data set.
And 60% of them liked the name, so we're sticking with the name. We did have a few people who didn't like the name, but I would say positive feedback for Daddy Boss Love being memorable, slightly inappropriate, which is really what we aspire to be.
But I think we got a lot of good feedback for Emma on the look of the podcast logo. People really love the look of it, so we got to give
my
shout
daughter
out to Emma.
did design the cover, which I love. Yeah, shout out to Emma.
Positive feedback we got was on the look of the logo. Parenting, I tell you, it seems like it's going all over the place. But I don't know if you guys heard. I got to find his name because I think it's worth to give him a shout out.
You're actually going to diss him though, right? It's like a
little bit
negative.
It's not so much dissing. I think it comes down to the question about parenting advice.
Okay.
I don't want to sound prideful, but I feel like if you're going to give advice on parenting, I feel like you got to go a little bit through the trenches. Where this guy, he's giving good advice. This is where I don't want to give too much flack here, but he's getting a viral video going about how to take care of your baby, and he's got merch going and everything like that. He talks about how to be involved with your baby, from swaddling your baby to parenting with his wife. He even at one point talked about how to with a clogged nipple, breastfeeding.
Oh wow! Okay, wow.
Actually suck on
there's
it.
There's going to be a theme in this episode.
Yeah,
very involved.
But the point is that this is a guy who is on social media giving advice about parenting, and he has he's brand new baby.
Yeah, and his name, actually I found it, is 2B Ricky, 2 and then B period Ricky.
Ricky, okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously an involved dad, so shout out to him for being involved. But the question is, when do you feel like you hit that moment where you feel like you can give advice? Are we ever able to give advice? Because he's going down the swaddling, but the one that cracked me up is when he talked about clearing her clogged nipple from the breastfeeding. He literally would suck on her nipple to release it, and he was
very hands-on, Dad.
I actually commented on him bro, I got 3 kids, and I can tell you guys, I never did that once. I think there's some other methods, but yeah. So what do you guys do as far as parent advice? What do you feel about what's the appropriate age, experience, where you feel like you now have knowledge to pass down to other people and share your parental
Oh my gosh, that's
advice?
that's a good question.
I think we got a wide breadth here. We got Josh got the older ones, Scott's got some of the younger ones. I'm right in the middle. Parenting
What
advice.
would you say, Scott? I'm curious.
Man, talk about one of the hardest subjects in parents giving one another advice. So if you have a friend and you observe something and you were to bring that up, it's like one of those really tight subjects where people will take offense more than anything else. It probably seems like it defines you or makes a character statement around you. So
If you imply that they're doing a bad job by saying, hey, maybe you should not do such and such. Yeah.
I think everybody's really happy to be affirmed in their parenting. But, hey, I noticed your kids did this and I felt this way when they did it. And have you thought about, blah, blah, blah. That's one way to ruin a relationship quick a lot of the time.
But when is it worth it? Because that's a great point too, because that's something I think in our moment, we all think we're parenting right. And when you see some parents, especially the younger kids with the full on, freak out episodes, and you always kind of want to like jump in and give coaching advice and parenting advice, but they're not always open to it. And you can ruin relationships over it. So that's another probably second question is like, do you let it go? Or do you, if they're close enough, do you give your input?
Yeah, there's like two super risky places. It's make a comment on, hey, you're dating this person and I don't think they're great for you. Or, hey, I've noticed when you're parenting, you're doing this. It's both of those feel like some of the most dangerous territory possible, where you probably get blacklisted as a friend if they don't agree or aren't in a place to hear it.
No, it's really true. I mean, I feel like I came from a context where there was so much parenting advice, and like in the church, the leaders, the pastors, they had the model families, and so their job was to be giving advice about their practices and here's how I disciple my kids and this is what I do, and everybody was looking for the formula, like oh you do you have a special time on dates with your kids, or you do this, or whatever it might be, whatever the practice was. If I can just do those things. And then of course anyone whose kids were like doing well, whatever doing well looked like in that context, it was well behaved kids that would happily greet other parents and perform. And so everybody would want the advice of that person because they had this authority. But then of course, if something went off the rails, then suddenly you're disqualified from, giving advice. So right. I probably swung too far in the other direction of just like, I don't want to give advice to anybody, because you think you know what you're doing, but it can be so child specific. I just think that the moments when I thought I was doing a great job with parenting, it turned out that it was like that kid's personality to be that way.
Yeah, it's so true.
But I think there's a balance. I think there's a place for like, we need perspective, people, especially parents that are a little bit further along, being able to get advice. But I'm just so wary of like the gurus out there,
Yeah, I feel like there's like two camps. Your kid, you have the parents that are completely just let their kids do whatever they want. And then you have the parents that got some discipline, some things in place. And I feel like you're in two camps. And there's not that balance. And there's a lot of kids that are assholes out there. So it's kind of figuring out the balance of where you help people. You think you got it right. I think you got it wrong. You're too strict. You're not strict enough. And you can debate around parents all day long. But watching this guy's video, it's you realize how innocent it starts. And then as they get older, as life gets growing and attitudes start coming out, it becomes a lot more harder. It'll be interesting how his page evolves, because if you're becoming a dad advice guy, that's going to start leveling up past babies and diapers and
for sure
clearing your wife's breast milk out.
Oh my gosh.
In one sense, you've got, you only have one shot at parenting is the thing. And then you think you learn a lot on your first kid, and then you get a second kid and the third kid, and they are so different. So what may have worked on your first kid doesn't work on your next kid. Like my two girls, they're 6 and 8 and are very different in personality, respond to different things in very different ways. But I definitely have that sense of, I want to do a really good job. I only have one run at this. And so I've recently actually started following a few parenting people on Instagram, actually. And some of it is just really helpful. Yeah. Right? There's one guy who does a whole bunch of like role plays and will tell you, this is the message you send your kid when you respond like this.
Mm.
Here's another way that you can address the same issue.
Yeah.
And I actually, when you're eager to learn and you're listening, some of that is really helpful in setting a different
like
frame
useful
of mind.
reminders, and yeah, that's good.
In this realm, though, like turning it another way, how often do you invite advice about parenting? Like, are there people that you see and you're like, wow, I'd really would welcome their advice, or go to friends and be like, hey, can you give me some feedback? Have you observed anything about my parenting?
So for me, a big source of advice and perspective has actually been my relationship with Kelly. It hasn't been so much, in recent years, other parents, although you guys have been a big source of encouragement for me. But, Kelly, knowing my kids, having a relationship with them, she has a perspective and she can, challenge me and say, hey, like, I think you could be more purposeful here, or whatever it might be. And that's been a huge benefit to me as a dad.
I think it's a great point, though, and something that we all carry with us now, of going from a place where you feel like you're doing really well in life. You're probably pretty happy to give advice, and then your life unwinds in a certain way. And all of us going through that experience of saying, I still have really strong opinions about things a lot of the time, but I'm going to be much more curious. I want to be much more curious about context and more of the variables that go into any given situation before I'm likely to say, oh, this is what I think you should do. Or
right.
I'd be very slow to say, I think this is what you should do in a lot of contexts these days.
So I guess the final opinion is we don't give advice unless asked. Okay. I remember that. Even though I want to give it.
It's probably more effective that way too, when somebody invites it.
Well, guys, we're going to turn our attention now to the boss category of the show, talk about business. So this is the setup for this. As we continue the nipple theme, a little while back, Kim Kardashian, who needs no introduction or explanation. She is one of the world's most famous women, beautiful woman, accomplished woman, businesswoman, not just multi-million-dollar companies, but billion-dollar companies. Her clothing line, Skims, came out with a hard nipple bra. So it's got hard nipples in the bra, so that a woman wearing it looks like she has hard nipples, although she might not in that moment. False advertising. It's an illusion. I don't know. I mean, that's a whole different ethical discussion about whether or not it's right to wear hard nipple bras. But my question when it comes to I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say it's not effective in the sense that it's eye catching, it's attractive, whatever. But my serious question when it comes to business is, what is the business opportunity when it comes to men and menswear, and whether it's clothing or enhancing
bulging
clothing.
Underwear? I kind of see something. I think we need to launch the Daddy Boss Love bulging underwear.
The Daddy Boss
Is it
Love.
a bulge? Is it not? Is it happy? Is that a banana's pocket or not? Just keep them guessing.
Yeah, is there a market for that kind of thing? Have you guys gotten a bunch of the ads on Instagram, like this T-shirt will change your man's life or whatever?
I feel like the big one for guys is Scott and I were talking about earlier, was the shoes. For those short kings out there. I think a couple of us in the group here, where you can increase your height by buying these shoes. I think it lifts you up about 3 inches, but they just look like Nike shoes. So it's very, quiet.
Oh man,
height shoes. And you read the comments and the girls are hating on it, like making fun of the guys for their insecurity about their height. If you need shoes like that, what are you going to do, when you have to take the shoes off? And a lot of guys are in there. It's a lot of fun. It's like read popcorn as you read the comments, because they're going back and forth.
So the girls
seems to be okay with
these
girls.
these height shoes.
Yeah. And I think the battle is girls can alter stuff, but whenever guys, it's interesting when guys alter height or physical appearance or things, we get made fun of or called insecure. But when girls do it, it's just a new fad.
Well, I mean, girls, let's be honest, girls have taken so much shit for all kinds of things, but I'm just picturing the awkward moments in the bedroom. You get there and the clothes come off, the shoes come off, and she's like, "You're short," and he's like, "Your nipples are soft." Oh my gosh. Would you wear height boosting shoes, TJ? Not that you need it at all, but would you?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't wear it. I mean, it's tempting in some cases because you get made fun of. I'm not the shortest guy. I'm sitting around 5'8", so definitely not the tall guy in the room. But if you do it, like, I don't, it's a lot to back up. Like, you're gonna just make yourself more insecure, I think, if you do it, because it's like she'll be like, "Hey," especially in Canada, you got to take your shoes off, and everyone, like, if you're walking around someone's house with shoes on in Canada, it's like, what the hell, bro? Take those off. Like, oh, no, thanks. And you're gonna have this whole argument about why you're gonna leave your shoes on. You have to say I have sweaty feet.
The shoes stay on.
Or when things get intimate, what are you gonna do? Leave the shoes on?
Leave the shoes
honey,
on.
It's kind of my kink. I need to keep my shoes on. It's just something I need. Because you don't want to lose 3 inches.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
So it's definitely a fine line there. So for me, I can't. Scott, I don't know. You're a bit tall. You're a taller one in the group. So would you want to be 6'4"?
It is like I say 6 foot, but I'm like 5'11 3/4. So maybe I need these just to get over that hump. Which tall is one of the things that you constantly hear, right? When you talk.
Oh, girls love tall,
and it's like
sure.
Love tall, and so that's something. But what I'm really stuck on is like, what's the equivalent of
hard nipples?
Like hard nipples, right? Like changing your whole height, but like, what would the difference be? Is it like shaving? Is it waxing or something? Is it like, what's the?
I feel like the equivalent is something that would be like if it like defined more your pecs or something. Do you know what I mean? Like a shirt, it wasn't totally obvious. It wasn't like some cartoon muscle thing, but something that gave you a little bit of that extra definition. Don't you think? Because it's like it can't be, you can't know for sure. It can't be so obvious, but it would boost your confidence or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. It hasn't.
And when they hug you,
yet.
like, sometimes, when the girl hugs you, they'll feel your chest and they'll be like, "Dang, he's kind of firm. All right, he works out." But really, you're like soft. Need a sports bra, probably.
Have you ever hugged a girl and felt her hard nipples?
Yeah.
Good question.
I'm just wondering if you like hugged a girl and she was definitely wearing the fake hard nipples, if you'd be like, "Oh, those are fake hard nipples. Those are Skims."
Yeah. I think you would. That's unusual.
Yeah, the actual Skim.
I
think
love
that would be
Scott's awkward laugh. We're gonna have to cut. I might have to cut this. I might have to cut this hugging someone with hard nipples.
Your nipples are hard. Are you happy to see them?
Oh man, no. The interesting thing though, because this bringing back to the height thing, it's totally true. I'm the shortest guy in the group. I'm 5'6", so, and I've always been totally fine with being short. That's like I'm good with that until I got divorced and I went on the dating apps for like 2 weeks. There is no better place to become insecure about your height than the dating apps, because all the women are just like, nobody under 6'3", it's like, they have
literally, that's on the dating app, like requests for
some will have it for sure, yeah.
I'm only into guys over certain height.
Understandably, especially taller girls, but a lot of girls, that's just like, that is the immediate most important, most attractive, like, quality, physical quality in guys. They don't want that moment of showing up at a date and having some short short guy there. So it's like they just shout that out. They just start out with that. And suddenly I'm like, oh my gosh.
My favorite is though, what I get when girls are like tall, like 5'8" plus or 5'9", they want a guy that's 6 foot. But it's when the girls are 5 foot, 4'11", 5'3", and they still want a 6 foot.
They still want a
like,
6'5" guy. Yeah.
Wait, a 5'8" guy is 6 foot to you. Come on. They got even point, or you can actually filter by size. So most girls now will just filter out a short guy so you don't even see him. And then they wonder, why is there no guys on these apps? Because they just cut off half the population. It's like, hey, if you just like put it down to 5'8", you're just going to open up doors. And
what about my personality?
I've got a really tall personality.
My comeback line for that is, I like climbing trees. I'm the monkey of the tree. Goodness. Let me climb. Doesn't work very often.
That's pretty good.
It's a shot.
Sometimes you got to just go for it, man. I respect that. I respect that. Well, I don't feel like we've come up with any really great business idea here. I'm a little disappointed because I was looking for a side hustle, but Scott, you're such an entrepreneur. I feel like there's some business idea here that
maybe, I think on guys, right? So one of the things that I'll do is like, I don't love it when my nipples are showing. Maybe we should do the opposite. We should do some
soft
nipple stickers. Bras.
Oh, there you go.
Some nipple stickers for men.
Well, this might need to need to be a poll in, because we have some female listeners to this show. We might need to do a poll. Like, do you like to see a guy's nipples? Is that good, bad? How do you feel about that?
I'm genuinely curious. Is that something you need to be aware of?
Well, what's funny? I remember when I was pastoring, normally I'd like wear button-up shirts or whatever. I was pretty casual, but there was one time where I wore a t-shirt. I was trying to be like the cool pastor, and I wore a t-shirt, and somebody actually like emailed in like it was distracting because I could see your nipples. So I was like, okay. Focus on the word.
Yeah. I hope they weren't lusting.
Well, they probably were. They probably were. I caused someone to stumble. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Scott, will you turn us towards a more serious conversation as we talk about love? Daddy, boss, love.
I sure will. I've been stuck on this question now for a while. The reason that I came up with it is I've been talking with a friend where we've got some interest, and she is newer to the dating scene.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh.
I found myself working really hard to be like, oh, there's a steep learning curve going into this dating scene. And there's a bunch of terms, and these terms have significant meaning when you're defining the relationship per se.
Oh,
so,
okay. I see where you're going.
Think back into when we were in like high school, right? If you were dating, you were pretty much like you were girlfriend and boyfriend. And that's what we said. Fast forward 20 years, we're in a completely different spot where you've got things like, oh, we're seeing each other. Oh, we're hooking up. Oh, we're dating. They're my partner. And I was just finding myself like, hey, there's like an ecosystem of terminology that you kind of have to understand. And if you're going to say I'm dating or you're my girlfriend, that's a really big deal these days. So
the DTR, define the relationship. It's the big conversation that that's coming around eventually. So that's where you are right now.
Well, it's around these terms. You're into the Wild West when all of a sudden you're like, oh, for me, my first example was somebody told me I slid into their DMs. And I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, are you kidding?
That's where you own it.
Oh, that's a thing.
You actually,
like if you start the conversation, and I was like, yeah, I guess I did that.
You sound like such a boomer. Scott left Facebook and opened Instagram. What's all these new kids into this newfangled Instagram?
What do they mean slide?
Yeah.
What do you mean by slide in?
Yeah,
I got
I
so
was saying
blatant that I'd
dropped
actually
in
just
for a
use
while.
the GIF where I would use the guy sliding on the slip and slide, and this rolls right in. That's kind of how my opening was into a girl's DMs. Just right
Oh
Would
on.
you
wow,
really?
Yeah.
That would be your. Oh
mm,
wow.
Just get
Yeah,
like the
that's a
GIF.
very
Movie.
straightforward message.
trade
Yeah.
secrets being
Yeah.
revealed right here on this
Yeah.
podcast. Trade secrets from TJ Walsh.
It's a good one. You
So
get some laughs,
uh,
but apparently that's not cool anymore. They're out. It just
Oh man,
ages you.
I still
quickly
use the
reading it.
crying, laughing emoji, and my kids say I'm just like such an idiot for doing that. So,
are you serious? I'm so far beyond the times, I guess.
oh,
I
yeah.
think I use the crying, laughing
My
emoji all the
kids,
time.
my 17-year-old can't even stand emojis. So anytime I use an emoji,
Wow.
Apparently the
Yeah.
crying emoji, the full-on crying face emoji, that's the one you use for laughing now. The crying laughing one
oh
is
my
out.
gosh.
But if you actually think it's funny, you use the crying one. It's all over the place.
Okay, TJ,
I can't be bothered.
we need to get back to Scott's question and I think you need to be the one to really tackle this one, TJ, because you have the most dating experience. What
Yeah.
are the different categories of relationships, and what do they mean?
Maybe we should do it like this. We should do a quiz. We throw out the term. He defines it for us.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, sure.
And shoot, throw me some terms.
Something.
I'm concerned that you don't even know the terms.
We should explain slide in the DMs for you. So yeah, it'd be interesting where you come up with.
I know that one now.
Yeah, what would be the
Okay.
terms that you need TJ's insight
What about
on?
we're seeing each other?
Oh, yeah. Seeing each other. That's the most vague one ever because it just leaves everybody guessing. But it's beyond friends. So that's basically somebody you're hooking up with, and it's just above casual because if it's casual, you wouldn't probably introduce to people. So if you're saying we're seeing each other, you haven't had the DTR, but you've gone on dates, multiple dates, but you haven't had the awkward conversation yet.
Interesting.
So
So
you're
it's more
seeing
about what
somebody.
you tell other people. You haven't actually defined it.
Yeah,
with each
because
other.
obviously if you're walking down the street in Vancouver and you run into friends, they're going to ask you later, probably, who's she? You don't want to say your girlfriend
Yeah.
yet. So you have to say, oh, we're seeing each other. We're trying to figure it out. But that means you're pretty focused on that individual. You're heading towards to define the relationship component.
So what's the next term, Scott, that you need clarity on?
What about we're dating?
Oh,
Whoa.
that means exclusivity. Unless you're in a poly relationship. But the reality, if someone's claiming the dating word, that means you're dating that person. And
So dating implies you're not seeing other people, you're not dating other people, you're not sleeping with other people. This is your one person you're dating.
yeah. In my opinion, from my experience, dating is you're not quite claiming the girlfriend boyfriend status, but it's pretty clear that you're pursuing each other, but you haven't introduced them to anybody in your immediate circle. So if you're dating them, like for example, if I was dating somebody, I probably wouldn't introduce them to you guys right away. I'd wait till they're actually girlfriends.
You would not.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
They're not quite into the
dating
friend circle. I feel like it's
oh my gosh.
a red flag if you're dating somebody and you quickly just introduce them into your friend group. I feel like that's still you're past the seeing each other. Okay, now you're committed to dating them, but you're not quite at the girlfriend stage.
Yeah.
You guys would not meet somebody I was dating
if you were dating.
What's that?
You would be exclusive when you're dating, though. It would be considered cheating if you were to see somebody else.
Yeah, unless you guys are an open relationship, I would imply that if you're dating somebody, you're just dating that person. I think they would have the similar expectation.
Yeah.
What a good question is, if you find yourself, am I dating somebody, is to ask that person, is anyone under this other assumption that they're dating you as well?
So if you were dating somebody, what would the conversation look like to go from dating to being boyfriend, girlfriend? Like what would that mean? Like what would you say?
I feel like it's the times we moved there, it's like, hey, are we now girlfriend and boyfriend? And we're taking this next level. And that's when it's like, hey, I want to meet your friends and family, and you're taking the next step.
Okay, that's interesting. Like that actually makes sense to me, that the line that you cross is we now want to present ourselves as a couple to other people. And that's when the boyfriend girlfriend terminology kicks in.
Yeah, because I feel like we're
Yeah,
opening up a
and
lot
that's when
of
it's very public.
avenues here. Because I've had conversations where I'm dating somebody, and they've gotten annoyed at me because I'm not posting them on my stories or showing to the world that I'm dating them. And it's these awkward conversations where you're like, well, I don't feel like we're there yet because we're just getting to know each other. That's why we're dating, to get to know, do I want to make you my girlfriend? But we're not official girlfriend and boyfriend yet. So I think it's really important to have these conversations because the assumptions will be sometimes polar opposites from each other.
Okay, next phrase, hooking up.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably one that needs the least explained. I think that's the one where, and I think, that's probably
That's
the
kind of
most
like we're
casual.
friends with benefits, or we're both like in this together and fine with whatever.
Friends
the
with benefits
the
totally different.
circumstance.
That means
Yeah,
you're
okay.
just friends.
Define hooking up. Don't let Scott try to define these terms.
I think, hooking up is a blatant, just like, hey, we're hooking up, means there's no interest usually on either party, and you're just enjoying the hooking up and having the physical connection, and that creates a lot of, I think, struggles in the dating world because it's so common now. Just people want to hook up because they're busy or whatever. One person likes somebody, the other doesn't, but they just think it's hooking up. But usually it means sex and no friendship, in my opinion. Hooking up is just someone you call, hang out with, and then leave. Whereas a friend with benefits would be someone you're actually friends with, and there's some things that you guys are doing in the background that people don't know about typically. You're the only two friends. And it
Special
happens
friend.
quietly, and
Mm.
either or party, I think typically would be okay if you eventually found somebody and it no longer friends with benefits. Whereas hooking up typically is just purely sex and probably won't see the person again. I
Last
agree.
question for you, TJ. So at girlfriend stage, is that when you would go public on social media, for example, as well?
Yeah. Once you committed somebody to be your girlfriend, I think that's where you feel it should be the where you now want to kind of show her off, for lack of better words, to get her to know your friends. Because I feel like it's the part of dating. What I've learned is through some crazy experiences that you can learn a lot about your girlfriend or boyfriend when you bring around their friends, right? Do they jive with your friends? Because that's a huge important part. If you got solid quality friends, can they get along with that group? Because that's going to impact a lot of things, and you can spot a lot of red flags about your partner when they hang out with your friends if you're still early on. But I think it's a really important time. If you're committed to that person, it's a great time to bring them around your friends, because then you get that part with your friends, getting to know them, because you want to build that relationship between your friends and her. And I think that's what I really value about Josh and Kelly is they just bring us into the world. And that's like, as much as we like Josh, we probably like Kelly more now. And it's just now
So
that
I
process.
know that's the case.
And I think that's just the kind of the goal, right? Where your significant other now is a part of that group. And yes, you have your independent friendships with them, but when you get together, it's just fun.
I think in reflecting too, I can tell how like seriously I'm considering somebody, because running through like, oh, what would my friends that know me think, or how easily am I happy to introduce, and then second layer, especially I have 3 sisters, right? So my meeting my family comes with some pretty strong opinions as well. But I think at this age compared to when I was 20, I'm like, actually, I really value their opinion and what they know of me and how they see me interact with somebody as well. So I think there's a real power in getting.
And can
this
I give
person
like a
around
little bit of advice for those newly single divorced people out there listening? Is don't use the word casual. I feel like if you're single and you're scared of getting into a serious relationship, a lot of people's tendency is to, okay, I just want casual. And they're just putting this whole word out that I'm just going to be interested in casual relationships. You will literally not get any dates. You communicate that to people if you're meeting them, that, if you're not into them, but don't just start being loud that all you're looking for is casual, because you will find yourself probably more alone than ever. So I always suggest, if you not just start just putting casual out there. It's one of the most cringiest things to hear, that, oh, I'm just looking for casual. It's like, oh my God, you're gonna...
Because that's just like a statement of I just want sex, and
Yeah, and if that
essentially.
happens naturally with the connection you are meeting with your dates, let that happen. But like, just to go blatantly say that's just what you're interested for, you're just going to be having 0 dates. And if you do get dates, it's going to be very questionable. You might end up missing on a milk carton or something later. So I think
Oh my
it's important to you might be scared or not want to jump into something serious, but it doesn't mean you have to start yelling out, "I'm just looking for casual," because you'll find yourself into some very
sketchy situations.
poor,
Yeah.
lacking quality
Yeah.
people.
Well,
I
let's
think
just
we
be
have our
let's be
business
really honest
idea.
about the dynamic between the genders here. If you're a girl and you say you want casual on the dating apps, you're going to get all kinds of guys wanting to date you. If you're a guy who says that, all the girls are going to be like, "Who's this douchebag?" So that's the reality.
Yeah.
You're going to get the
I
poly
think I have our
couples sliding in your
business idea.
DMs.
Though. Ooh.
You got a
Pretty
business
quick.
idea, Scott?
Yeah, I think we can start a consulting service for people entering the dating world. I'm sure there's tons of these out there, but TJ can be our first consultant that will get you prepped, teach you the terminology, give you the handbook, give you some great tips. We'll
Here are all my failures and embarrassments. Do the opposite of these.
TJ would be an incredible dating coach. Like, he could set guys up with their profiles on dating apps, guide them through how to have different conversations. He would be amazing. But I'm not sure it would
Yeah.
scale. What we need to do is create an AI of TJ, and then we can sell that dating coach.
Yeah, we can
Simple
just have
things.
several consultants, but then the upsell is like, oh, and I'll do the communication for you. Like, teach me.
It's like the
So then
movie
you don't
Hitch.
have to do the vetting and stuff like that. They actually, because the biggest issue with dating apps, it seems, is the level of work they take, or it feels like a full-time job as well to pick through the.
Well,
all
you got to
the
remember,
noise.
Scott, all right? How active are you with your money to save and investments?
I'm not active enough.
But
Okay,
are you,
but-
you're pursuing it, Mr.
Yeah.
Crypto Man. That same effort.
Also,
if you
don't
didn't put-
say that in your dating app, Scott. Don't talk about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Scam artist.
gaming.
Pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
I'm looking for casual, and I'd love to talk about the power of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Have
No,
you heard
dating.
of this new coin? I'm launching a coin called I'm Dating.
Oh, okay. What were
But
you
the
going to say,
idea is
TJ?
it takes work and investment. So if people are like, oh, dating apps are so much work. Yeah, they are. Just like anything else in life, you got to put energy into it. And, putting energy into your app, putting energy into your profile, talking to people. My biggest pet peeve is people are on dating apps and they don't communicate. It's like the most horrible thing ever. So if you're going to be in it, be active. That's the biggest thing I say is nothing worse than matching with people that don't communicate and putting work in. But you got to treat it as like, you can't expect your money to grow if you're not investing and spending time into it and doing the work. You can't expect to get fit if you're not going to the gym, showing up and watching your diet. You can't expect to get dates if you're not putting energy,
Preach
time,
it,
resources.
brother.
So
I'm
get
telling you,
active.
I'm telling you, TJ, man.
TJ is passionate about this. He is passionate.
He's a pastor's son right here. Did you?
Yeah.
I'm ready for an altar call. Listen, if you feel drawn right now to change your dating experiences, if you're just feeling that sense of I want to be a new man, I want you to right now call 1-800-TJ Dating Tips. Sign up right now for TJ's exclusive cohort.
No, I think we bring it
That was
live.
good,
I think
man.
if we get
No, that was
people
good.
that have advice, I think we bring them we bring their questions on and we answer their questions on the podcast. I think
that's
eventually
good.
we
You
should.
mean on the show here? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like,
Yeah.
as a group, if there's people that have questions about dating or there's a situation they're in, like we're talking about, steps, I think it'd be a fun part to add on later on is just actually us all three taking questions from people that have questions. They can be anonymous, they don't have to use their name, but be fun.
I think it's a great idea. If the listeners, if you've made it this far, if you've made it through the inane conversation about nipples, if you've lasted this long, send in your dating questions and we will have TJ answer them.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to get lots of comments like, isn't that the guy that's still single? All right. Yeah, that guy.
Then we can have another side that is, hey, listeners, if you've got some advice for us, why don't you just send that in as well? Like, top 10 red flags on your dating profile or Instagram page.
Yeah, I'll rip
So
it
you're
apart.
saying they would give us advice? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't feel like I'm an expert and have a lot to add to the dating scene at this stage. So we've got
Scott,
one expert, but
the only thing, you know what will happen? The women will be requesting more shirtless videos on Instagram. That's the advice they're going to give
From
you, man.
Scott,
That's all that you're going to get.
You know, it's a real question. It's a real question I have. I'm gonna save it for another episode.
Yeah, we'll have to do that next time. Well, guys, this was a lot of fun, and for everybody listening, we do appreciate you tuning in with us and being a part of these conversations. But boys, until next time,
it was fun.
Indeed. Let's not make it so long.
Yep, that's time. Right, TJ. No more excuses.
Yeah, no.
I really want you to commit.
No more dating. I'm just gonna focus on
DJ.
this.
We need to DTR this podcast relationship.
Right now, this is not casual anymore.
This is not.
Okay.
We are more than dating when it comes to this.
We're
podcast,
it's a seeing each other podcast. Yeah. I think we're now on the.
I want you to post it on social media.
Yeah,
that would really mean a lot to me. I want you to introduce me to your family.